Make sure you hit.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the Happy Productive Podcast. I'm Jennifer Dawn, a business coach and founder of The Best Planner Ever. If you're ready to start winning big in business and life, woohoo, you're in the right place. The Happy Productive Podcast is your go-to resource for learning how to bring awareness and some mental toughness, some discipline, some clarity, all these really, really good things into your daily productivity so that you can knock your goals right out of the park and start succeeding on a whole new level. Today, I am so excited because we're going to be speaking with John Davis, who has lived the life of an action hero. You guys are not going to believe all the things that he's done. He's been a professional flight director and a stuntman for stage and screen. He's an artistic director of 3 regional theme parks, a sword fighting comedian, a motivational speaker, an author, and a coach. And after September 11th, he brought his inspirational message to 16 countries around the world, including the front lines of both Iraq and Afghanistan on 6 USO tours. So welcome, John. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Well, I am thrilled to be here and really happy to be adding your podcast to my list of achievements.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I have to hear professional fight director. You got to tell me a little bit about that. So what does a professional fight director do?
Well, so imagine if you go and you saw a play or a film and you saw a fight scene of any kind. Now, a fight director is someone who not only choreographs the fight, but directs the entire scene that the fight is in. So the emotional content up to the fight and out of the fight is all part of the fight director's job. And so I would go in there and literally direct the scenes. Like, for instance, if you saw Romeo and Juliet, I would start with the entrance to Tybalt to Mercutio, and then I would take it all the way through to Romeo killing Tybalt. And
Okay.
all of that would be my job.
Wow, that is so fascinating. My husband always loves the fight scenes, and I'm always like, okay, how much longer are we going to be fighting here, people?
Well,
Remember,
see, that tells me the fights weren't very good, because the whole fights are designed to propel the storyline. And if you're not invested in what they're doing, then the movement wasn't congruent with the story, and that is a waste of time.
oh, that makes so much sense. All right, so what's your favorite fight scene in a movie?
The number one question I get asked is exactly that, and
Uh-huh.
everyone expects me to say Princess Bride, and
Oh,
it's not the
okay.
Princess Bride fight for me, um, because Princess Bride is an amazing fight and it's an incredible fantasy fight,
Hmm.
and I love the references to the historical fight manuals that they said all the way through it. But when I choose actual fights that I like, my favorite was the ending fight in a movie called Rob Roy with
Oh,
Liam Neeson and Tim
yeah.
Roth. And the
Uh-huh.
reason was because I'm sort of a historical sword nerd, and
Uh-huh.
so we had one guy who was fighting with a transitional rapier and one guy who's using with a basket broadsword, and they both were using the correct styles. And in the end, it was the brute force of the broadsword that ended up killing the other one. But the storyline was so well done all the way through that you got to see some really amazing stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And from there, you went to being a sword fighting comedian. Okay, tell me what happened there? I got to hear this story.
well, let me back up just a little bit, because
Yeah.
I when I was a kid, I always had a stick in my hand and was running in the woods and playing Robin Hood. I was the kid who always wanted to have a sword in his hand in his entire life. And by the time I was in my late teens, I decided I wanted to be a stunt director and a fight director and a stunt man. And I ended up meeting 2 of the top fight directors in the country who liked me and thought I had talent in that area and started giving me their training. And um, what happened was is that there was something that happened right after that kind of derailed me for a little while, and we could talk about that in a little while. But what eventually happened is I went on and created a sword fighting comedy show called Hack and Slash, which got first went to Renaissance festivals all over the country, and then eventually got picked up by the USO, and we went all the way out to the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan and all over the world performing, and then eventually we started doing corporate events with that as well. And that show was really wonderful. And for those of you who don't know what Renaissance Festival is, that basically means for many years I was wearing tights and living in the woods.
Yes.
um, so that's what a comedy sword fighting is. But there was some pivotal moments in there that changed my life entirely.
Well, tell us about one of those.
Okay, I'll tell you the biggie. That way we can
Okay.
get right into it. At 22 years old, I was well on the way to being a stuntman, well on the way to being a fight director, well on the way to getting my black belt in Taekwondo. And a buddy of mine said, "Hey, come on out to my house and help me unload my van." I said, "Okay," which I then began to question our friendship because of what he asked me. Um, um, but I got out to his house, and his van was filled with 80-pound boxes of clay. He was a professional potter, and
Okay.
at this point, I was strong. I was rock hard, masculine bodied. I had long Fabio hair. I had all this stuff, right? And I was I saw this van full of clay as just another workout in my mind. And I climbed up in that van and I picked up that first box and I turned to set it outside of the van, and my spine broke in two. And
What?
I collapsed and was paralyzed. And
Oh,
doctors told me, they took me to the hospital. Doctor said, "John, you have a condition of the spina bifida occulta." And I said, "Gesundheit." 'Cause I had no idea what that meant. Basically, what that meant was three of my vertebrae right at my pelvis never formed properly at birth. And with the extra 80 pounds of weight that day and the twisting action, I actually broke my spine in half. And the
wow.
doctor said to me that day, "We're not sure if you're ever going to walk again. And even if you do, we're not sure that and we know for a fact that you will never have a physical career. Your back can't do it." So
Mhm.
basically, he took my dreams away that day. And I went to some pretty dark places in the next week or so. But then a friend of mine came in and when you look at it from the outside, it looks like a really cruel joke.
Yeah.
But he gave me a book called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee.
Mm,
So here's the martial artist who was just told he'd never do martial arts again, being given a martial arts book by the greatest martial artist that ever lived, right?
right.
So totally what looks like a bad situation. But that book is a book about his philosophy of martial arts.
Yeah.
And it starts talking about, there's a couple things in there that really struck true to me. One of them was staying very present
Hmm.
and having mental flexibility, being very flexible no matter what's happening in your life. So that day, I started focusing on my present moment
Hmm.
and not focusing on the belief that others were trying to give me. And I started changing my belief system around what I was going to achieve. And I decided that I was going to be a stuntman and a fight director and do all the things that I had set my mind to. And that day, I started flexing my upper back muscles above my injury. And I just slowly, over the next couple of weeks, started lowering, going further and further down my back. And about 20 days in, I flexed my hips. And the doctors were like, "That's below the injury," right? And then by a month, I was sitting up on the edge of the bed. A month and a half, I was able to walk down the hallways. And 6 months, I would say I was probably back to a normal physicality.
Hmm.
And at a year and a half, I gave myself a gift. I climbed up on top of a 3-story tower and I jumped off into a fall pad. And I went on to do over 4,000 live comedy sword fighting stunt shows all over the world. As I said, including the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan. I worked in Hollywood. I've climbed Mount Sinai and Machu Picchu. I swam in the blue lagoons of Iceland. I've done more things. I did 16 countries with the USO. I've now been to 30 countries, and I have done more things than most people do in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's all because of the fact that I know I can, and I create the momentum from my own choice and by leveraging my present moment and remaining flexible.
This is amazing. And so obviously I've never snapped my spine in two. So I don't know what that experience feels like, but I'm imagining like you're in the hospital, right? Are you in the
Mm,
hospital and you're paralyzed? You can't move.
that's
And
right.
but you make this decision. So take me to that moment where you make the decision, where you just decide, I'm not going to accept the fate that these doctors have said this is my fate, and you decide you're going to do something different, which goes against all medical advice. Just
Right.
take me to that moment. Like, where did that come from?
Well, when I read that book, that the leveraging the present moment was very interesting. But the mental flexibility part of it was even more interesting to me because it's like it really told me that I was in charge of my own experience. I am the creator of my experience. Now, as I dug deeper into it later on, and now I have a system I call the 5 Fs, which is all about hacking that fight or flight response and getting past all that because everything I was going through was being thrown at me was fear. People
Yeah.
were throwing their fears for me and my own fears as well. And so I had to get out of that mindset of creation. Now, you know, we only live one present moment. And, we have thought, word, and deed, and they can only be done here and now.
Mhm.
Because yesterday, tomorrow, yesterday, your subconscious mind is just filled with present moment memories and the belief that comes with them. And your future is just a place where you set goals for your next present moment. And so what you do here and now is what creates in your experience. So I could sit here and take the belief of creation that the doctor was giving me and telling me that I'll never do it, or I could take my own belief and become the creator of my experience. And what I did that day was I after reading that book, I was like, well, who says? Who
Mhm.
says so? And I had
Yeah.
to come to realization that it was I'm the one who says so.
Right.
I'm the one who creates my experience. And by choosing that, and then I as I delved further into the spiritual aspects of it, Buddha says what you think you become. Gandhi
Mhm.
says you must be the change you want to see in the world. Krishna said you are the culmination of your thought. Jesus said, whatever you ask in God's name is granted. But Moses said God's name was I am,
Mhm.
not I will be or I was. Right.
Right.
So whatever I'm putting after I am is what I'm creating. And what the doctor was telling me was what he thought I should say after I am. And what I put after I am was something different. And so once I did that, I just started creating in that present moment that outcome. And what happens is most people who are trying to go for a big goal or be productive in their life, they sit in this moment and they look at that giant goal they've set and they
Mm.
think they have to get to it. But
Mhm.
that's not the way the brain works. The
Right.
brain works very differently. It's like you do small present moment actions here successfully, and it comes to you and surrounds your experience. So I
Mhm.
had to realize that what I did here and now brought my experience to me. And I've been in movies. I've done, I well, I witnessed Brad Pitt being smacked with a bottle over his head. And so I've really done really cool things in my life. I've worked with the guys who did the choreography for Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Highlander, and I've done all this amazing things, but I never would have done any of it if I hadn't taken control of my own creation.
I love this so much. And did you find, and I ask this for people who might be listening, who have made a decision in their lives that I'm not going to accept, a diagnosis, the reality somebody has given them, maybe something their parents told them, and they've decided, I'm not going to accept this. And they're trying to make that change. They're trying to create their own reality. And along the way, like in the beginning, those first few days, those first few weeks, you probably didn't have a lot of, like, you couldn't feel your lower half, like you didn't have evidence, right, to support the
Right,
decision,
right,
right? And
right.
so when you're in it and you don't have the evidence yet, how did you keep the faith? How did you keep your mindset strong? How did you keep going before you had the evidence, right, that will eventually line up? But we know it doesn't line up that day. It doesn't line up usually
Well,
the next day.
faith is basically trust.
Mm-hmm.
And trust is developed by results over time. So you've got to stack your present moments to build that trust. But
Mm-hmm.
the first thing you have to do before you can get to the faith aspect is you have to tackle your fear. And when you look at fear is an interesting thing. Because when you look at fear is just an emotional reaction to some future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome.
Mm-hmm.
To knock it down
Right.
even further, it's just negatively focused on certainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about that is if it's focused on a future, that means it's not in your present moment. It's rooted somewhere else. And it's you choosing to focus on a negative outcome. Now, we all have a natural fear response that we go through. When we get into that place of fear, the first thing that happens is we don't feel like we can breathe. We get all tense and tight. But the reason that happens is not what people think. It's not that they can't breathe. It's that their body is actually storing air so they can run further and faster because it's a primal response based on the fight or flight response. I can prove
Mm-hmm.
it to you. Do you watch National Geographic shows on TV?
Occasionally. I'm not much
Okay,
of a TV
so
watcher, but I do watch National Geographic. Yes.
so you'll know that almost every National Geographic show has a doomed gazelle in it,
Oh, yes.
right? Right.
Oh,
And
yes.
and that doomed gazelle is out there eating grass in the fields, like
Uh,
right. And then the lion hits the field. The first thing the gazelle does is go
right.
gasp. Right now, if you're a parent and you've ever seen your kid almost get hurt,
Yeah.
you have gone. You have done this. It is a natural primal reaction. The interesting thing is reason we do that is so that we can run further and faster. It's a primal response.
Mm-hmm.
Actors in Broadway or in the film are literally trained that if they forget their lines, they're trained to exhale, relax all their muscles, and all their lines rush right back to their head.
Mm.
And the reason it works is because it shuts off the survival mode and turns the cognitive thinking brain back on. So in my situation, I had to overcome my fear before I could come to faith. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, here's the next part of it. So what I've just done is I've led you into my 5 F's in a way. The first one is fearlessness. Right?
Yes, I'm guessing of the 5 F's, one of them is not your effed. So I'm hoping.
That's the 6th F, but we don't talk about that.
Okay, we don't talk about that one. Okay.
Yeah, no, not mixed company.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the first one of the 5 positive F's, yes,
is fearlessness.
Yeah.
So, and literally, fear is just literally a matter of exhaling and realizing it's not in your present moment. First of all, label it too, because when you're in fear, it's hard to steer it and move it.
Yeah.
The second you say, "Oh, it's just fear," now it's outside and external. So when I was on the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan, I was talking to soldiers. I said, "You go into these situations where you might get shot at or blown up. How do you do that?" They said the same thing. They exhaled first. They let their fears go.
Really?
But then they also said to me something interesting. They said, "But it helps that we have an objective to focus on."
Mm-hmm.
So the second of my 5 F's is focus. Now, the interesting thing is focus is an interesting animal because do you know negative people?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever noticed they always have something to be negative about?
Always. And that's where their focus is, right?
Right. They focus on negative. The subconscious mind has 2 jobs. One of them is to store those memories, as I said, and create that subconscious belief. The other one is to show you what you're focusing on to help you achieve it. Right. So say for instance, I'm a person, I love Jeeps. So when I drive down the road, I see every Jeep on the road and in driveways. I see everyone because my conscious mind thinks Jeep.
Right.
So I see, right. It's the same thing with this. If you focus negative, your subconscious mind is going to think negatively. And then what happens is because you are now thinking negatively and your subconscious mind is showing you negatively, you are thought, wording, and deeding negative in your present moment, which is stacking one of those negative moments in your past, in your subconscious mind, creating an exponential cycle of negativity.
Right.
The only way you break that cycle is to consciously choose to stay positive and create a successful positive moment. And then you stack that into your subconscious mind. And the more of those you stack back there, the better the cycle becomes and you start going positive, right? So you got to get really seriously focused in that direction. So we got fearlessly focus. Now we get to the one that we started this part of the conversation on, faith.
Faith.
Because once you fearlessly focus, you will start to see the results because your subconscious mind will show it to you. Because I'm going to focus positively. I'm going to start to see positive things. Now your faith is building, and you have to have that faith. Because if you don't have faith, then you won't take the next of the 5 F's, which is follow through. You won't take an action if you don't believe in it, right? So you have to then sometimes even leap past faith a little bit to take the action to help you build the positive. You got to throw yourself out of balance. But if you're not taking an action, the first question I would ask you is, what is the fear? What's stopping you from moving? And you go back to the start. You say, okay, you relax and you breathe and you move forward, right? So we got fearlessly focus with faith and follow through. And the last one's the one that I started this conversation on early on, and that's flexibility.
I love that one.
Yeah, something is always going to come up that's going to seem contrary to what you're trying to achieve. Always happens.
Right.
But here's the cool part. What I just said to you about the subconscious mind is proven science, right? But here's the interesting part. When you focus on a goal and something comes up that seems contrary, you get to make new choices. And if you make a new choice that's negative, then you're stopped, right? But if you think about something coming up that seems contrary as my subconscious mind is showing me this so I can achieve my goal, now it's something you just need to address. And you either need to incorporate it into what you're doing, dismiss it entirely, or literally eradicate it, basically. So it's one of those things that's just, okay, my subconscious mind says, fix this to get that. Stay focused on the final goal. But remember, you got to stay flexible. Bruce Lee used to talk about be like water. You come to an
Mm-hmm.
obstacle in the river, you flow around it or over it or over time through it. But you
Right.
have to stay like water and you have to keep moving forward. So you have to fearlessly focus with faith and follow through with flexibility. And those are the way you hack the fight or flight response. And those are also the way that you change your subconscious belief that's behind you
Mm-hmm.
and alter your outcome because your present moment creation is dependent on you staying right here, right now. Now, one of the things I heard you say, and it's a red flag word for me, and you said it like 4 times, and it was not about you. You were explaining a scenario.
Yeah.
You said, "What about the people who are trying to do this and trying to do that and try,
Yeah.
try, 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 try?" Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of my teachers was, and I learned from him from the movies he was in, was a guy named Yoda.
I was going to say, you're going to whip out Yoda, aren't you? Don't try, do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do it or not, there is no try, right? You have
That's
to have
right.
that, right? I don't believe in affirmations. I believe in declarations because
Mm-hmm.
I believe the word affirm itself means I'm shoring something up. It's not solid, so that's a bad belief. The
Mm-hmm.
word try. Now, I said earlier that what you think you become, but I also said whatever you say after I am. I had to take certain words out of my vocabulary to get out of that bed and move on. And the words I
Yeah.
took out were wanting, needing, hoping, and trying. I took all of
Wow.
them out of my vocabulary because none of them are present moment creative. I had to make
Nice.
sure my present moment was consciously creative. So I would say, I am becoming a stuntman. I am flexing my upper back muscles today. I am going to flex my hip muscles today. And I had to go through the whole I am process, staying very, very present. And the more I stayed present, the more that outcome came. And like I said, I've done amazing things in my life. I became a college professor at Oberlin, teaching stage combat, teaching physical things. Right, the
Mm-hmm.
doctors told me I'd never have a physical career. I did
Mm-hmm.
more physical things than most people will do in their lifetime in
Yeah.
a course of 10 years. Just so you can do anything in your life. It's just a matter of staying very focused. And if you want to be productive, specifically in productivity, your present moment is the key to getting anything done. You have to make sure. A lot of people talk about multitasking. i'm not a
Mm-hmm.
big I'm not a big believer in multitasking. I believe, yes, you have a list of things that are on your agenda, but you tackle them one at a time.
Yeah.
And you go in and you do them well and you move on. In the old TV show MASH, um, Hawkeye um, said something to Charles Emerson Winchester, and Charles Emerson Winchester says, "I do one thing, I do it very well, and then I move on."
Yes.
Right? Right. So do one thing, do it very well, and move on. That's how
Yes.
you.
I'm with you. The whole multitasking thing, sometimes we get pulled into a little bit, when you're cooking dinner and the kids are coming at you and everybody else is coming at you and the emails are flying in, that we do end up having to do that. But I'm such a huge fan of just focus on
Right.
one thing. We talk about our A tasks and picking, even in like my planner, I don't have a lot of lines for to-dos because it's like, get really clear on what your most important things are and focus on those and see them through to completion. But it so lines up with everything that you said today too, of part of the whole point of an A task is pick the thing that, puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? That does maybe scare you a little bit, but in your heart, it's going to get you to where you want to be. And just take that step today. Instead of
Right.
like, if you had said, oh, I'm going to heal my spine and I'm going to have it done in 3 days, it would have been like, yeah, not going to happen. But
Right.
you had to take
Right.
a little step every day. And I love how you eliminated try from your vocabulary. It was just do. I'm doing
Right.
this a step every single day. And you brought in the faith and
Yeah, a lot of times when I'm coaching someone through a process, I'll tell them to buy a digital voice recorder.
mhm,
And those small ones you can buy at Best Buy, they're like 20 hours they'll record. Click it on and throw it in your top pocket and go about your day. And at the end of the day, go back and listen to all the things you said about your present moment. And
yeah,
what most people find out is they think they're too fat, they think they're too lonely, they think they think all these negative things. They say things about themselves they would never allow someone to say about their friend.
yeah,
Well, Nietzsche talks about the concept, if you want a good relationship, you have to foster the friendship. Well, if you want to foster the friendship, you need to foster your own friendship first.
Yeah.
friendship with self. You
Mhm.
need to be good to yourself. And so the reality of it is that you really need to get into the mindset of today I'm achieving something great, but I'm doing it one small step at a time. And, when someone tells you that your back will never, that you may never walk again, and even if you do, you'll never have a physical career, and a year and a half later, you jump off a tower
Yeah.
into a fall pad, that's doing something. But the only thing that's really interesting about that from an outside of me perspective and into the world perspective is a year and a half is a short amount of time.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about how long it's going to take. You need to get into because that's just the fear. It's going to take too long.
Right.
Most people sit in this moment and they look at that thing and they think, I got to get to that. But as I said, it's coming to you. But
Right.
here's the biggest thing that I run into with people is they have a present moment belief that struggle equals growth.
Mm.
And I say, why are you focusing on struggle?
Right.
Focus on the growth. Right,
Right.
right, right. You
Right.
know,
Because where focus goes, energy flows. And
and your present moment says, I am struggling.
right.
And whatever you ask in God's name is granted, and God's name is I am, and blah blah blah, right? The whole thing,
Right.
and
Right.
it's I am, not I will be, not I was, right
Right.
here, right now. And it's funny in the Judaic religions, the word Amen. Most people don't know what it means, but it means so be it.
Right.
Not so will it be or so it was. It means right here, right now, it's done. Right here, right
Yeah.
now, it's done. So that's the way you create into your experience. Right here, right now, it's done. And talking about multitasking, for a while there, when I was doing all my work and stunt work and all that stuff, I was also buying and flipping houses for
What?
a while. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
because
my
I was like,
goodness.
let's like make some extra money. So, and I took a course with a really successful real estate investor. Her name was Robin something. I forget what it was, but one of the things one of her teachers said was, first of all, don't lift a hammer. That's not your job. Your job is to find the next house. But
Yeah.
he also said if you have 4 houses that you're doing at once, right, and you're trying to do them all at once, all of the money from those 4 houses don't come until the end. But if you have 4 houses and you kick one off, this one's profitable now. This one's profitable next. And so you have money all the way through the process. It's the same sort of thing in your life. You can have the small successes, and that does several things for you. It pays you in your faith, it
Hmm.
pays you in your positivity, it rewards you for doing the things you're doing all the way through the process. So you need to make sure that you not only are being productive, but you're also rewarding yourself for doing those things.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. John, I am just blown away. Like, this is such great stuff. It's so perfectly in alignment with everything that we teach. We talk a lot about win the day, right? You have a
Mhm.
big goal and it's just can be overwhelming when you try to do so much at once. But if you just take it one day at a time and just win today, that's your goal, is win today. And those
Right.
days start to add up. And then eventually you're going to start to see momentum. And from momentum comes results, and you'll get to where you want to be. And of your 5 F's, the flexible, I think that's so important. So often I see,
Absolutely.
I'm clear on where I want to go, what I want to do. And then because it doesn't fall out the way that I've said it should fall out, it's like, hello. And then you get so flustered because it didn't fall out the way you decided it was supposed to fall out. So I love that flexibility of, this is where I'm going. I'm not going to try. I'm going to get to this place, being flexible along the way, because information, resources, challenges, all these things will present themselves that help you get there. But if you're not in
Right.
a mindset to receive it in the right way, you miss it. You miss the lesson, you
Right.
miss the growth, you miss that good stuff, which, I firmly believe the universe is always trying to line up to help us get to where we want to get to, but we have to be a willing component in that. And if we're fighting it, resisting it, afraid to take a step, well, you're probably not going to get what you're after if you're not following some of these other things like flexibility
Right.
and fearlessness and follow through. I love your
Right.
5 F's.
Well, what's interesting is the concept of ask, believe, receive, and the universe
Hmm.
gives it to you, right? The thing is, number one, you have to realize you're the one asking,
Hmm.
and the way you ask is by believing.
Yeah.
And it's not about actually saying, "Can I have this, please?" It's not about. It's about your asking is believing. I am believing this, so that's how I'm asking, and I'm going to get it, right? That's really the key. Robin Williams had 2 quotes that I love. In every movie he ever did, he always made sure somewhere in the movie he said carpe diem,
Mm-hmm.
seize the day, right? The
Mm-hmm.
other quote of his that I love is somebody asked him one time if he would do a Mork and Mindy reunion show. And his response was, "You never look back if you want to move forward, or you'll just run into a tree."
Oh, that's a good response.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you're looking back at the things that have happened in the past, you're not creating momentum forward.
Mm-mm.
You've got to be consciously moving forward. And you said earlier about getting out of your comfort zone. No great success has ever been realized in your present moment without change, without
Mm-hmm.
you going into something different and moving in a different direction. Another thing is that when you achieve that final goal, you need to immediately set a new one.
Yeah.
Because when you look at water in nature going down a hill, water in nature, that water's flowing, it's full of oxygen and life, it's coming downhill. Take that same water, put it in a puddle, it becomes poisonous and stagnant, and the bugs lay
Stagnant.
their eggs in it, right? Stagnancy is death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Choose a new goal, keep putting yourself in a direction. The word action means to create motion, start momentum, or to do something. The
Mm-hmm.
word hero is someone who achieves extraordinary results in service of others. And I will tell you what, if you want to see real momentum, put yourself in service of others and go out
Yeah.
there and really feel that change. You'll always be setting new goals and moving towards new things and feeling really ridiculously young. I turned 57 in 2 days and I feel like I'm about 22.
Oh,
you
nice.
know,
That's
I
so
just feel
nice.
so young.
Yeah, I love what you just said about being in service to others. Earlier in my career, when I had my software companies, I was always focused on the money. And as a business coach now, and you're a coach, you work with a lot of, when I work with a lot of business owners, it's, a lot of focus on the money, money, money. And I'm not saying I love money. I'm not saying not to focus on it, but in my own businesses, when I shifted my focus to service and
Hmm.
how can I help more people? How can I help my clients' dreams come true? The money was like the byproduct of everything. Like I don't even
Absolutely.
have to focus on the money anymore because I know that when I'm in service and I have a full heart and I'm doing everything I can to serve others, that money just flows. It just
Right.
happens.
When I speak all over the world, I speak to big Fortune 500 companies, everything, and I always ask my audiences a very simple question. And the question is, um, "What's most important to you?" I
Mm-hmm.
have never once heard someone say money or my job.
Mm-hmm.
They always say family first. They always say family first. So if that's what's important, be of service to your family by saying, "Okay, I am doing this amazing job and doing this, bringing in this incredible income because I'm serving my family."
Yeah.
That's a great way of changing the direction that you want to go. Because
Yeah.
it's really important that you have a purpose. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a purpose, then what's your drive? And
Right.
if your drive is to serve your family the best you can, oh my gosh, you can go as far as you want to go.
Right, exactly. I agree completely. And I really, for my coaching clients, so when I grew up, I didn't have a lot of my family there, it's very dysfunctional. And so as I've grown up, my kids and my husband now, very close relationship, but I really have extended that to my business clients. I really feel like they're an extension of my family. And so when I'm taking care of my clients, when I'm taking care of my kids, when I'm taking care of my husband, just all feels, that same love is just sort
Right.
of magnified. Of course, I'm careful about who I bring into that circle because I really want, the right people in there. But
Mhm.
it really does change your emotional state. It puts you in a different place. And for me, it taps into that drive. It taps into that passion when your heart and your mind and your energy and all those things are lined up and focused on the right thing. You can just make miracles happen.
And you know what? If you truly want to be of service and you can guide someone else through the process, that's really one of the things I do when I go and I speak to companies. And sometimes I have thousands of people in my audience, but
Mm.
I'll walk out in the audience and I'll find the most timid person I can find, and I bring them on stage in front of those thousands of people. Right now, that seems like a very cruel thing to do to somebody, but they're about to have a life changing experience because I guide them through my 5F process. And what happens is, in under 5 minutes, get this now, under 5 minutes, they learn to crack a bullwhip and hit targets out of my hand with it.
What?
Yep. Yep. And the way it's done is I, as a leader, understand my 5F process. I lead them through their fears, and I negate their fear. First thing they say, they hit the stage. I know their biggest fear. I know, because I'm an empathetic leader,
Yeah.
that their biggest fear is being in front of this audience. So I,
Hmm.
first of all, I make her feel comfortable with me. I say, thank you so much for coming up here. It's really, really great of you to help me out. So I put her in service to me.
Yeah.
You're helping me out. Then I turn to the audience and say, isn't she a rock star? And so they instantly give her love, which is her biggest fear of not having their love. Right.
Hmm.
So now I've negated the fear. Then I start talking to her about fishing, because I don't want to talk about bullwhips, because bullwhips have a thought process: pain, danger, and that sixth F we talked about earlier. Right.
Right.
Right. We don't
Right.
want to talk about that. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't want her thinking that way. So I talk about fishing. I haven't even shown her the bullwhip yet. So we're talking about fishing. I said, have you ever cast a fishing rod? And whether they say yes or no, I say, I'm going to teach you the best way to cast a fishing rod today. I said, let me get you a fishing rod. And I pull out a whip. Okay. So now the audience laughs because I pull out a whip. And I turn to her and I say, we're just using it as a fishing rod, because
Hmm.
it's her experience, not mine. Right. I need to keep her in a calm state. Then I have half of the audience do the fish face. It looks like this. Right. So they're doing the fish face. Now she's laughing at her friends and the
Yeah.
people in the audience, and she's having a good time. I've kept her positive mode, right? Her
Yeah.
attitude good. Then I say, all I want you to do is choose which fish you want to catch and cast your fishing rod. And she does, and the whip cracks,
Mm.
because it's the same motion, right? I
Right.
said, okay. I said, great. That's awesome. Perfect. You did it. You got it. I said, do it again. Catch another fish. Crack, crack. I get her cracking like 4 or 5 times. Then I say, all right, now you need to start aiming for smaller fish. And I pull out a target, and what the target is, it's a pretzel rod. So
Hmm.
it's about 9 inches long or so, and it's pretzels. And I hold it out there, and the first thing I know now as a leader, empathetically, I know she's afraid of hitting me.
Right.
So I turn to her and I say, look at me. Did you hear it crack? And she says, yeah, yeah. I said, you heard it crack several times, right? Yeah. So you already know how to make it crack. Now, if you're watching, is this on video as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so this hand gesture is something we all do naturally.
Hmm.
This hand gesture, somebody says, gosh, you are so good. You look so beautiful today. You go, oh, stop.
Yes.
Right? Well, in hypnosis, they call this a wipe. And
Okay.
we are all trained to think of let it go. Right.
Hmm.
So what I say to her is, you already know. I said, did you hear it crack? I get her to acknowledge that she did it. And then I go, so you already know how to make it crack. And I wipe it away, and I put the thought in her head that I want her to think. And so now what I've done is I've shifted her mindset from learning a skill to knowledge of skill. So I just shortened her learning curve.
Hmm.
Now I say, here's something else. I promise you won't hurt me. I promise you won't hurt me. I went right at her fear and
Yeah.
took it out of the equation, right? Sometimes when you're leading somebody through something stressful, you got to lie to them.
Right.
I'm
Absolutely.
kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, well, you have to realize that it's their circumstance, it's their situation, it's their experience. And if you're a leader,
Hmm.
then you're leading them. You're not dragging them. You're not a dragger,
Right.
right? And so I have to meet her where she is. So once I say, I promise you're not going to hurt me, just look right where you want to hit and cast your fishing rod.
Yeah.
And they go kapow, and they knock the target right out of my hand every
Very
time.
nice. Yeah.
And it literally is, it proves a couple of things. It proves that anybody can do anything if they get out of their own way. And it also proves to her that, her timidity that she had, her being timid,
Hmm.
is because of her fears.
Hmm.
And she just was on stage, and thousands of people just told her she was an action hero, because
Yeah.
she was a rock star, right? And so she had the real life-changing experience. And everybody in the audience who knows her as a timid person goes, oh my God, I can't believe that she did it.
Right.
So it's a huge experience. And to me, that's the best thing, is being of service to that many people at once.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? And I think that anybody can achieve anything in their life as long as they manage their fear, leverage their present moment, and remain flexible.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. John, I could talk to you all day. This is all so fascinating. And I want to end by recapping one of the things you just said. Anybody can do anything if they just get out of their own way. Really? I
Yeah.
mean, that really sums it up so perfectly. So many great takeaways today. Thank you so much for being here. Can you share where people can find you if they want more of your amazing brilliance and wisdom and coaching? And if they want to learn how to crack a bullwhip, where can they find you?
Well, before I give you my website, let me give you one more thing. I want to give the audience a gift today.
Yes.
And it's my 5F workbook. And it's a free gift. And when I say free, I mean free. It means you go there, you download the book. You won't even have to give me an email address. I'm not collecting your names. So
wow.
It's about giving service today, not taking from you. So go there, get the book. But you know what? Guess what? You're on my website anyway. So look around, check it out, see if you find things you like. I have a daily vlog on there. I put out stuff, daily motivation, and if you don't want to do it on my website, you can find me on YouTube, Corporate Action Hero. But every day I put out a small piece of motivation to keep us moving. And so other than that, you find me at Corporate Action Hero. On there, you'll find LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and all the stuff. All the links are there. But corporateactionhero.com is where you find me. And if you want the gift, you have to actually go to corporateactionhero.com/gift, because you won't be just find it on my website. It's a secret just for you people.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we'll put that in the show notes, you guys. So when you go to bestplanerever.com, if you go to the podcast, I think it's under blog, actually. We do a blog post for each of our podcasts. And so we'll definitely put the link in there for that, corporateactionhero.com/gift to get the free gift. You don't even have to put in your email address, which is so awesome. Absolutely love the 5F so much. So you guys, a great, valuable download to go and grab. Wonderful. John, thank you so much for being here with us today, and just so many like truth bombs, like one right after another, like so many great things. I always love hearing these things. Even so we hear it, we quote know it or whatever, but mindset and just always hearing things over and over and over. I'm always so grateful. It's such a gift. And you said so many things today that me personally, I'm just so grateful to hear. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for your audience, just remember, today's choices are tomorrow's outcomes.
Absolutely. I love that. What a great way to end. All right, you guys, I hope you got as much from today's episode as I did. Thank you so much for listening. Now get out there and go have a happy, productive day.
I hope you found today's episode of the Happy Productive Podcast inspiring. Every successful business is formed by a set of small, consistent, and attainable steps. Visit us at JenniferDawnCoaching.com to take your next step and learn how to meet your business goals. On the website, you'll find free resources, along with the links to the life-changing coaching programs that have transformed the personal lives of so many of Jennifer's clients. Many of them started their journey by listening to this podcast. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.